On the quiz, it was out of 44 points, so you can go ahead and write that at the top of your paper. Using the letters in questions number 2, match the following by putting one letter per blank. If you had a look at all of these, they're asking you which one of these are vertex form. Vertex form has how many sets of parentheses, class? Vertex form has one set of parentheses to the power of 2. So that would be this one and this one. So you could have put either letter I or J or G to be correct. Intercept or factor form has two sets of parentheses. That would be E. And standard form has no parentheses. That would be F. How we graded your papers was basically we graded the front of one person's and then the back side of the second person. So even though you were not graded on one of those sides, you should still do your corrections because you want to understand what you missed. Question number 2. Match the following by putting one letter underneath the graph. One equation will not be used. So if I know that this is factored form, what I did right above it is I wrote factored form. A times x minus p, x minus r, or you can call that x minus r1, x minus r2. The big idea here is to identify that without the minus sign, your p value here is a positive 1, and your r value is a positive 5. So it's going to be on this side of the x-axis, and your a value here is positive, so your concavity or graph is opening up, and that would match this graph. You have a 1 and you have a 5, and it's pointing up. These two have vertex form. Notice here that this one says plus, and we learned in class to write this as minus negative 2. And your h value would have been negative 2, k value negative 4. So if I'm looking for one that has left 2 down 4, that would be this graph here. Left 2, down 4. Remember, they're counting by 2, so you have to pay attention to the graph. My a value is negative, so I know it's pointing down, so this is the correct answer, I. This graph is in vertex form. Change the plus 4 to a minus 4, so you have x minus negative 4, so your h value is negative 4, negative 2. So although negative 4, 2, that graph would be kind of like right here, the vertex. And notice how that doesn't match this one. And although it is pointing down, so down, because your a value is negative, the vertex is not in the right location for this graph. So I'm not going to choose this graph. And then the last graph here, this is standard form. The last letter, the C, is my y-intercept. My a value tells me it goes up, so I'm looking for one that has a negative 1 through the y-axis. That would be around here. And pointing up, that would be F. Question number 3. Describe the transformation of f of x given f of x plus 1 minus 2. If you write your general form, a of the function b of x minus c plus d, you'll recognize that I need to change the plus 1 to a minus, and my c value is a negative 1. A c value of negative 1 means you're going to have a left of 1 unit. A d value of negative 2 means you're going to go down 2 units. So your answer is a shift of left 1 unit and down 2 units. That would be H. Remember my phrase, add to x, go west. West means left. So adding to x here means going left 1. That was how you apply my trick. Question number 4. Identify the vertex of the graph. Tell whether it's a minimum or maximum. On my graph here, there is the vertex. Here it is the lowest point. Basically, a fancier definition is it changes from decreasing to increasing. Well, the order pair here is 0, 0, and it is the lowest point. That's why it's called a minimum, choice D. Remember on your quiz corrections, make sure you're writing a complete sentence of why you missed the problem. Question number 5. Circle the correct answer. Which function is not a quadratic function? A quadratic function basically means it has power of the 2. If you take f and you multiply those by FOIL or the box, you'll notice that you have an x squared. So that is a quadratic function. We're looking for it's not a quadratic function. G has the power of 2. it is a quadratic function, but we're looking at one that's not, so I'd cross that off. H has a power of 2, therefore it is a quadratic, but we're looking for one that's not. If you look at I, if you distribute the x here, you'll get x squared, and that becomes a negative 3x. You'll notice that those two terms there will cancel, so you're left with negative 3x. That is a linear. So I is the answer because it's not a quadratic. Question number 6. It got cut off. I told you guys to copy it. Use the given information to determine the most efficient form you can use to write the quadratic function. If you look at your points here, 1, 0, and 7, 0, you'll notice these are x-intercepts. If they're x-intercepts, then you're going to use factored or intercept form. That would be B. That side was worth 22 points. Remember, you got 1 point if you wrote your name and your period nicely. All right, number 7 tells us to circle the correct answer. Choose a term that identifies the effect of the graph replacing f of x with a times f of x. Well, if your a value is getting bigger, such as like 4, it's called a vertical stretch. And what that looks like is your graph, if this was the parent function, and you take the hands of the function, you kind of pull it up, it'll get skinnier or narrower. If your number is between 0 and 1, it's called a vertical compression and basically flattens the graph. So it gets kind of squished this way. Okay? So your answers are vertical stretch and vertical compression. And this helps you answer question number 8. Question number 8 is multiple choice. Which of the quadratic functions has the narrowest graph? Well, we created this graphic organizer, and you guys were not allowed to use this on your quiz, but if you created your own formula sheet, it's a great way of studying. Narrower refers to if the value is bigger than 1. So you're looking for values that are bigger than 1. So you can, kind of crazy, but cross off B and C. Then I'm looking at these numbers between -3 and -4. Well, if you took the absolute value of those numbers, let's just say you get, you're playing your video game and you get a bonus of 3 kills for every person you kill, right? Your total kill count's going to go up pretty high, isn't it? And then if you have that really extreme 5-second bonus where it's like you get 4 kills per one, your kills are going to go a lot higher. So if they're going to go a lot higher, your graph's going to become skinnier. And that's why the answer is D. Let's talk about the free response. Make sure to show all your work and box your answers. Given f of x equals x squared, complete the table and graph f of x and h of x. Okay? I literally take this from our packets. We've actually done problems like this. These reference points, I did cover up these two. And really what the reference points are if you put them into x squared, for example, 0 squared becomes 0. You put in 1 for x. 1 squared is 1. You put in a 2 there. 2 squared is 4. Okay, so if you got this yellow box correct, I gave you 2 out of 4 points. Well, what does h of x mean? They give me a function here. I recognize I can create a rule. How do I create a rule? Well, I want my c value. If I change the +2 to a -2, then my rule is a -2. My x values are going to be subtracting 2. Okay. Another explanation of that is my silly phrase, add to x, go west or left. So you're adding 2 to x here, so you're going west 2 or left 2. Left 2 on the x-axis is x -2 is my rule. And then your d value out here kind of helps us figure out what's happening. That's down. We're going down 1 unit. So down is referring to the y-axis, so that's y -1. So I'm basically taking every x value and subtracting 2. 0 minus 2 gives me -2. 1 minus 2 gives me -1. 2 minus 2 gives me 0. You're subtracting 1 from every y value. 0 minus 1 is -1. 1 minus 1 is 0, and 4 minus 1 is 3. Don't ignore the pink graph. So if you graph them, because it says table and graph, the parent function, which we've done, you graph the first 3 points, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4. And then if you have your mirror, that's what it means to be reflective over. In this case, it's being reflected over the y-axis. And so going right 1, up 1, you're going left 1, up 1. Left 2, up 4, and then there's your yellow graph. You can just graph these 3 points as well and do the same thing. Instead of going right 1, up 1, you're going to go left 1, up 1 from your vertex of -2, -1. And then go left 2, up 4, and there's your graph. Okay? So that's how you do question number 9, only worth 4 points. Question number 8 was, I think, a same exact problem. I might have just changed the numbers from the previous quiz. Convert each quadratic function in factored form. So this is factored form because it has parentheses to standard form, which means no parentheses. How do you do that? You do FOIL, or the box method. It doesn't matter if you're using FOIL or box. You'll multiply, then add. So x times 2x is 2x squared. X times 9 is 9x. 3 times 2x is 6x. And 3 times 9 is 27. You multiply there. Now you're going to add. 9x plus 6x is 15x. 2x squared does not have a like term, and 27 does not have a like term. Your answer is there. Question number 9 was a Ken. There's your answer there. Look for the freebies. I would start there. See mine, I have a bunch of erasures. Totally fine. And let me go over the last question, number 10. Same exact question from the previous quiz. Same exact question. Analyze each graph, then circle the function which could model the graph. Describe the reason you could either eliminate or choose the function. Here you have factored form. I have the pluses. I change them into minuses. I wrote factored form above it. A value is 2, which means it's going to open up. There I wrote in purple. Red, I have an x-intercept of -1 and x-intercept of -4. So the x-intercepts match the graph, but because this graph is opening down and ours is up, it does not match. Therefore, I'm not circling it because the concavity, which is your A value, does not match, and the x-intercepts do match. If you were correct, but there's no describing in words, then I gave you 3 points. If you wrote the word factored form, either the formula or the words factored form, I gave you 2 points, and then that side was out of 22 points.